All right, we are live. We are excited to be here with you, and I'm RJ. I'm here
Very.
with Brian, Jonathan, and Megan. Hey guys,
Hey guys.
Hello.
Hi.
man, what a well. I want to say that right before we went live, 1 minute before, someone
Uno
sent a
minuto.
voicemail and said, "Can we just skip fish and talk about goose?" And that, so I'm not going to play that voicemail, but I just want you guys to know that we received one that said that, and we can't for a lot of reasons. So
It's a different podcast.
sorry,
Yeah.
but
That
Not if
said,
they're
I did
first sent like
make
that.
that
We
very
can't talk
joke
about them.
like 5 minutes ago,
yeah,
I think.
you did. You did
So-
exactly.
You did.
Exactly.
Seekers
So
and SOS to close the tour opening first set. My God, dude, are you trying to drive away fans? I feel like we're like playing bigger venues. We need more people on board.
I
that's
saw that set list. I was like, this is going to kill Brian.
we said
It's
we
like,
weren't
No
going to
idea
talk
what's
about it.
happening
Remember?
now.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm instantly out of my depth with that band.
Okay. We did it. We're good. Now we're good on that. Great. So welcome everybody. We have a lot of Dick stuff to talk about, but the Mondegreen conversation is not over. We got a bunch of voicemails about Mondegreen, which is cool because I think it was good that we want that more people want to talk about it. So that's good.
I didn't realize there was more to talk about, but sorry, Meg.
Well, there is, and if you would,
Dang. You know
I
what?
mean, I
There's
just think it's
interesting
done.
stuff to talk about in comparison to Dick's. That's what I'm
There's
excited to talk about because people have been talking about that online. I've been thinking about it a lot. So there's definitely a lot to talk about there.
there is.
yeah.
I'm excited to hear
Mhm.
your thoughts.
Okay, so I guess Megan, maybe the first thing we should do. Let's just talk real quick. I want to say two things. First of all, this Thursday, if you're around the Northeast, you should come to Bridgeport, Connecticut, where Megan and I will be. We're going to be seeing Reprise. It's a band that recreates Fish shows. They are going to be playing the 12/2/95 show on Thursday in Bridgeport, and then in Asbury Park on Friday. They're going to be recreating 6/28/2000. It's gonna be pretty cool. So you guys should all come.
Dude,
I know. So fun.
they are
Yeah,
recreating some fire Trey riffs here. That
I know.
tweezer and that bathtub gin. Come on.
I know.
And they're going to
Gonna be
play
so
Albuquerque.
I
Fuck.
know. So
These
Only
so
because you're
signals.
not there, Brian.
This is what
Yeah,
happens.
exactly. If you were coming, they would just like skip that part of the show.
repriseband.com is the URL if you want to check out those shows. Okay. The second thing is, Megan, I know that you have thoughts and feelings on Mondegreen now that Dix has happened, but can we listen to one voicemail about Mondegreen because we actually didn't get any fan input on the Mondegreen recap because we did it and then the voicemail started rolling in. So, will you play the first voicemail for us, Megan?
Yes, I will. Excuse me while I do this. Here we go.
Hey, how's it going? I just listened to your coverage of Mondegreen. I was there and I had a blast. And anyways, I thought I would call in because my wife is tired of me talking to her about fish. Because it's always a good outlet. But anyways, I did the summer tour. I skipped a couple shows, but I did most of the tour. Had an incredible time. Definitely the best fish that I've ever seen live personally. But the reason for that might be because my first fish show was 20 years prior to Mondegreen at Coventry. So I'm one of the people that was a total noob at Coventry. I had no idea what was going on. I just knew that I wanted to see fish before they broke up because I was just getting into them. And anyhow, yeah, I've been reflecting on that all summer and just how lucky we all are that fish is not only still performing, but still performing at this level and playing amazing music festivals. And I could go on and on. Just on your coverage on Mondegreen, I think a couple things that I wanted to call out that I felt was like major pros of having a 4-day festival is if rain does hit, you still get 3 amazing days of music. So I kind of felt like Sunday was a bonus set. And obviously, if you only went on Sunday, you made a mistake, but we all knew that anyway. The late night, I think actually swapped. So I think that was supposed to be Saturday, and they
Mhm.
moved it to Friday, based on like adjusting the DJ set. So that was just my take, and I know that there were some logistics issues, but I think for the first year doing a festival out on that site is really like the best spot because there's so many hotel and Airbnb options in that area. It's just way more accessible, and I think this is like the way to go. But it definitely felt more like maybe a 4-night run, other than one of the best sets of music I've ever seen Phish perform, which was the late night set. So, anyways, I'm super stoked for Dick. I have high hopes for what they might do with the song selection there, and never miss a Sunday show. So, anyways, thanks for what you're doing. Thank you so much for the podcast. It's awesome. I love listening every week. So take care.
Awesome.
All right. So Megan, he said a lot of things that may have triggered you there. And I want and you too, Brian, especially about never missing a Sunday show. But let's Megan, you have been in our chat. You have been you've been treating this like it's a matchup between Mondegreen and Dix, and you seem well. I'm not going to say you're mad, but I think you're. It's an interesting thing to be comparing the runs. But how are you feeling now that Dix is over about Mondegreen? Looking back on it.
Well, it's really interesting because first of all, I'll say that I think I'd be feeling different if Dix had never happened. Like I think if Dix hadn't happened, people would be feeling super great about Mondegreen because it was fantastic and the weekend was so epic. But musically, comparing Dix and Mondegreen, I think it's very clear that the Dix shows were just superior. I think the set listing was better, the commitment to jamming was better, the flow was better. There were some amazing shows at Mondegreen, but not as many as at Dix. And I think there was one over 20-minute jam at Mondegreen, not counting the secret set. I think there were 3 in Friday night Dix shows alone. And so it feels weird that in a summer packed with long jams and rarities and bust outs that we had very little of any of those at Mondegreen. And so it just felt strange that that they were kind of like holding out. Like to me, it feels like the tour almost took like a little bit of a dip in terms of like set listing leading up to and through Mondegreen, because I think it was really strong up until then. And then kind of they picked it back up night 2 at Dix, less repeats, more bust outs, more rarities. And I think that when I think about a way to make a Phish show special, and we'll get into this, but especially like night 4 at Dix, throwing a bust out or 2 in there makes an average show seem special. And so I think there is, in my mind, a thought process of like, if your festival is going to get cut short, you have one set, you need to come out and just lay it on some bust outs and some weird shit that like gets people excited. And it's like people wouldn't be caring anymore that it was short or that it wasn't, long jams. At least then it's something interesting. So I think there's just a lot of thoughts I have about that in terms of like choices that were made. And, maybe it just isn't that deep. Maybe it's just that like the magic didn't hit at Mondegreen the way it hit at Dix. And I'm not saying that Mondegreen wasn't amazing. I had the time of my life. Anytime Phish plays a festival, I will do everything I can to be there. But comparatively and music-wise, there's just so much more to return to at Dix. Those were just phenomenal shows, in my opinion.
I think, Megan, I think I would always caution people from comparing shows. But people like Brian are never going to listen to me, so it doesn't matter. But
I know Brian's wore off on me. What can I say?
Well, I do think in this case, I think it's justified, if only because they really hyped up the festival. Like they didn't, they do like the kind of basic rollout of the summer tour, and it's like, here are the shows, tickets go on sale, whatever. But like almost the entire PR cycle ahead of summer tour was like, this festival is like not to be missed. And I think for the reasons you said, it wasn't to be missed because it was great. And, but they
were advertising it during every set break at the Sphere as well. It was all across the big screen.
And Trey
so like if you were there, right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So I think it's like, it's interesting because I think based on every person's account who was there that I talked to, it was amazing, like you said. But I do think it's interesting to think about and how much the weather and the stuff, like the stuff that happened on Sunday clearly wasn't just happening on Sunday, right? Like it probably was like throughout the weekend they were trying to adjust and understand what was going to happen.
Right. I mean, that I think played a factor in moving the late night set was weather forecasts. And that's the challenge, particularly anybody who lives in this mid-Atlantic region, you get thunderstorms forecast. And this has literally just happened this past week here where we got 5 inches of rain, and the people, 30 minutes away got almost nothing. You have to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And I
Mhm.
feel like that is what Fish had to do. They, the way things went down for Sunday, insofar as, they played a one set show because they were preparing for the possibility of bad storms that didn't really materialize on the site. Drive half an hour away, I think they, if you watch the radar, they definitely happened nearby. It's a coin flip and it's a drag. And you're right, Megan. They could have maybe, if they weren't feeling the jams sometimes they just don't happen. Dropping a song, busting out Dog Log at Monte Green instead of Dick's. Sorry, Dick's. Something like that would have raised the points a little.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I wonder, in a sense, how you would feel had Sunday not been impacted the way that it was, or had, the rain out set happen on Friday or Saturday. I just think that there is a world where the festival ends on that note and it makes you feel a certain way. And I wonder if
Yeah.
that's shifted around. Like when I think of Dick's 2022, for example, the rain delay that happened actually amplified that show. Jonathan and I were together at that. Like that was a really fun experience. And then the show really rocked. Whereas Dick's 2023 ended with this kind of like confusion of, is there going to be a delay? Okay, there's a delay. Oh, wow, cool. Security has no control over who's getting in, even though there's been people that have been in line for 4 hours. Oh, the band comes out and plays an incredibly flat show. Like you walk out of there feeling a very different way than had it materialized the way that it did in 2022, that made it feel kind of magical and a part of the experience. But I also think and I want to really temper how I feel, because I feel very good right now about this, but I also
You can
empathize
feel
with you.
good, Brian. You
I
can
think
feel
you should
good.
feel good.
But I empathize
Yeah.
with you because the experience you have,
happens.
you had this year, and with Mondegreen specifically, is somewhat in line with how I remember feeling in 2022, where I was watching this tour that had these great shows at Bethel, this great show at Hartford. You guys caught this awesome out of nowhere show in Raleigh. Meg, I think you were at Atlantic City, and that first night of Atlantic City is just like a massive show. And I'm watching this whole tour going, oh my God, I'm going to see this band. And then I get Alpine Dicks that are, just I don't think there were really any moments that fully reached the peaks of what we saw early on in the tour. And so you kind of feel like, wait, why did I miss out on the epic moments of this tour? I got good Fish at times. I also got Fish I didn't totally love. And you walk out personally feeling like, did I do something wrong? Like, did I not go in there with the right, viewpoint? Was it the band? It's
Yeah.
it always, I've been thinking about this a lot. It comes down to that moment between Peggy and Don Draper, where she's like, hey, will you just tell me I do a good job and tell me that I matter and I mean something to the company. And Don goes, that's what the money's for, and you get that sensation of I am paying you guys for this experience that I crave throughout the year. And the nature of Fish is sometimes you get a really good, awesome, impressive rock show that, by the way, none of these songs were planned out before the evening. But other times you get that. And then, as we know, so much more. And that so much more is, I think, the reason why we're sitting around here on Labor Day talking about this band when we could be out at a barbecue.
Doing labor. We're doing labor on Labor
No.
Day.
We are labor.
I will say, in
Hold on,
response to that,
Jonathan.
Brian,
Hold on.
I
just
agree.
let Jonathan tell me about Labor Day real quick, and then you can continue.
We are not doing labor. Well, I
Okay.
personally am not getting paid for this, nor am I lifting things. I do
Same.
no labor on Labor Day because, as a worker and a man of the people, I recognize that today is America's bullshit excuse for May Day, which they couldn't have on May Day because that would be in lineup with communists,
Way
and
too in
that's
line.
bad.
Mm-mm.
So power to the
Plus, we need
people,
a
power
reason
to
for
the worker.
sales at the end of the summer. Come on, we need a reason to have blowout sales at the end of the summer as we're in the middle of Q3. Come on.
We
That
are
Capitalism,
said,
baby.
we are all
back to
volunteers.
Fish.
We're all
There is
volunteers.
a good with the bad. situation with fish all along. There always has been, always will
Always.
be. Some, the ratios differ from time to time. Like, and I'm going to talk about Dick's for a second and not Mondegreen. The You Enjoy Myself. Drake kind of flubbed that shit up in the beginning. Big old jam on the end. What are you going to do? So yeah, sometimes it's sucks. I don't do entire tours. Like our caller claims to have done most of this tour. Good for him. If your life
Great
allows
tour
it,
to do.
that's awesome. Yeah, good
Hell
picks.
yeah.
I tend to go to like one show here or one show there, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. And yeah, it's tough. You did have a Ferris wheel though, Meg. Tell me you rode the Ferris wheel.
Of course, I rode the Ferris wheel, and
Okay,
there's a lot of pictures online if you want to see them of me doing that. But I do want to caution against comparing Mondegreen to Alpine 22 because I don't.
Of course.
Think
I
that
did
lines
not get
up.
an 815. No.
And I will say that there were moments at Mondegreen that were like, I think night 1 and night 3 were spectacular, and the Woodlands Jam, obviously the best thing I've ever seen Fish perform live. So this is all with a grain of salt. I think there's
You
just
come
a
out
bit of,
ahead.
yeah. I mean, I feel great about it, but I do think there is an interesting thing of like, the expectations being so high, and when Fish continues to crush them, it's so thrilling. And when you're not there, you're like, oh fuck. But I'm super happy. I honestly had the most amazing weekend this weekend, like streaming Dick's. I was really tired and I couldn't always stay up, but I loved just watching it from afar. And Brian, I'm so excited to hear about your experience there in person.
I just want to say to Jonathan's point that we are all volunteers, and you can support our volunteer efforts by going to osirispod.com/premium. Brian, when I think of Fish playing at Dick's Sporting Goods Park, I think of you first, and then I think of other stuff, but mostly you. So set us up for this run before we talk about night 1. What do we need to know?
Well, Dick's, I was thinking about this last night. It's always this interesting run in the fact that it is kind of the transitional moment of the year. We've had the summer tour. We know kind of the sounds the band is playing around in. And then Dick's kind of caps that off, sometimes in a great way, sometimes in a confounding and frustrating way, always in a fun way. And then we either get, fall tour, or we get this extended break until New Year's Eve. So we'll be listening to these shows a lot and digesting them over the next couple of months. And it'll be interesting to hear how that evolves. And that's, Dick's is always, they never would play Dick's in July. They would never play Dick's, later in September. Like it is this time of year that feels every, I can set my watch to what the year is going to feel like, because I know that Dick's is coming and then Dick's is gone and we're in a new place in the year. That said, it's also, had this interesting lore to it, kind of on par with festivals, kind of on par with MSG New Year's Eve, where we've had some really outstanding runs. 2012, 2016 immediately come to mind. And then some runs where the band hasn't fully, it's kind of ended the tour on a little bit of a flat note. And there's been this kind of joke around Dick's that you get like big Saturday night specials. You get some gimmicks here and there. You may get some jams, but you may also just get this band that is trying to figure out where they're going next. This year, coming out of a summer tour that I think is incredibly strong, all hyperbole for 2024 Fish right now. I'm just blown away by it. I definitely feel like Mondegreen had some extremely high highs, some moments of confusion, and just, kind of ended a little bit flat because of the Sunday show. So I didn't totally know what to think going into this. That said, we had friends come to town. We're, in our home life coming out of a pretty intense summer period, just with health related stuff. And so for me, this was like my one vacation and just like retreat from reality and from the world the entire summer. And so once I picked my buddy up at the airport on Wednesday evening, we were kind of off and running. And if you've done Dick's with me, you know that there is a very rigorous and intense schedule. I apologize in advance to anyone that does it. I promise it's fun. It's a thing.
I broke it down
the organization
for my wife
is
the other day. I was like, here's what they're doing.
Oh my
You
god, that's
know it.
amazing.
You know it exactly. You were a co-captain one year, and it worked incredibly well.
Does.
We have to be, because of the nature of GA, because we have specific seats we want to sit in, because we're always with like 20 or 30 people. We have to time everything out, and then by the time the show starts, I am like fully in the zone. Usually, the light as they're coming on stage, and you immediately get Kuroda lights for 2 full sets because of the time of year. It's still dark.
Can
It's
I interrupt
Yeah,
you
yeah.
to like to
Yeah, yeah.
dwell on that for 1 second? Because
So
that is
cool. I
kind of
forgot about
unique
that.
to the summer tour experience, because shows
Totally.
start at 8 just like all the other summer tour, but sunset at the end of
like
August is like
7:20, 7:30.
7:50,
Yeah.
well, it depends on so
Yeah.
exactly, it's before 8 though, and so it's dark. And I just, even watching it from home, I'm just like, it's dark. Oh yeah.
I
love
I
that.
love that.
It's
It's so
nice.
cool.
It's in this big stadium that like it's unlike anything the band plays on the summer. They'll play these sheds that have similar amounts of people, but like the stadium vibe has that kind of carryover from what the Dead were doing in the 80s and 90s. So it just feels like a thing. The staff at the venue are incredibly nice. You can walk the entire venue. There's always kind of the same faces that are there. It's just the vibe around Dick's, I love. The music, I have been up and down on after being introduced to the venue via the Fuck Your Face show and the 2012 run. That said, and I'll just come in with the hottest of takes before we jump into the shows. I think this is the best Dick's run since 2012. I will have some critiques throughout. Obviously, that's just how I roll. But overall, I feel incredibly good. I feel like this was one of the more satisfying 4 nights of music of Phish I've ever seen. Could be the most satisfying. I don't know. That'll take some time. Some incredible jams that I'm still processing and figuring out. I got to celebrate my 100th show. I got to bring my son to his first show. Just some incredible emotional highs throughout the overall weekend that I'm excited to get in the weeds on. So hopefully that was concise enough for you, RJ.
Perfect.
I mean, it was pretty good. I wouldn't concise is not how I would say classify.
There was that one
anything.
section that we can probably cut out, but that's
Brutal.
Oh my God.
That was great.
Savage over here.
No, it was great. Thank you, Brian, for that. I was able to actually finish all my animal crackers that I had here during that soliloquy. So
See,
now
we're working together.
Oh my god, I love animal crackers.
I know, me too.
Oh
All right.
God.
So
Such a weakness.
so night one, they immediately hit the cities, and just such a great opener. Really, really good little groove. Paige is on the piano. It sounds like immediately they get into a jam, which I think the sound checks that day were a bunch of jams as well. But that whole first set, I really just want to say that I'm so into the Down with Disease in the second slot in the first set.
Yes.
Just do it early.
Yeah.
You know, it gets dark, and there's a lot of other stuff that happens in that first set that we should talk about. But that Cities opener was pretty sweet.
I liked it. I liked it too. I liked the Cities. I thought Down with Disease had a good little jam in it. Ether Edge, people should not sleep on this Ether Edge. It's not the like biggest one from the summer, but it's a good one. And I feel like right in the as they're bleeding away from the song into the jam, there is this bit that reminds me of La Bamba instrumentally. Which is really cool. Paige is really up on the part that I'm talking about, and on the piano, I think. I was listening to it in the car yesterday, and it's terrific. I think that I think that the set kind of theme is good, llama's good, but I feel like the set doesn't quite take off for me after that. But it's not bad, but I do enjoy it.
I will say that going into this first set, there was a strange vibe in the air, because for those of us who go to Dick's every year, the addition of the fourth night is quite a lot.
Yeah.
I'm here for more fish, but 4 nights in Colorado sun at the end of August. It's just a lot. It's a very long weekend, and the last 2 years they have famously not been able to do 4 full shows because of the weather. And if you listen to me in any podcast format over the last 6 weeks, you know that my biggest area of stress outside of my real life was, will we get 4 nights of fish? And we did, which was amazing. But also, this was the most undersold I've ever seen the venue. It was sparsely populated heading into the show, and it felt to me like City's Disease Ether Edge was almost this like, hey, we got to sell some tickets. We're going to fucking jam. Okay. So we're going to play songs in
Yeah.
strange places and we're going to jam. Come to the next 3 nights. Which I'm there for, them having to hustle like that.
Waterwheel was giving away floor wristbands for exchange for donations. I saw, which is wild.
I mean, I think Mondegreen definitely affected that. I think a lot of people traveled to
100%.
Dick's. And I think that, a lot of people had to choose, like, am I going to Dick's or Mondegreen? And so I think people went to Mondegreen. And I think we were texting before the show and I said, oh, like low attendance, like the show's going to rock. And it was great. But I think the first 45 minutes opening up like that is just, it's such a statement. And I thought it was really great. My highlight, or one of my highlights of the set though, was the Ocelot. I thought it was just perfect. Like it was such a good, like late summer just jam. It's so meandering in like the best way and just has this like huge hearted crescendo. And I thought it was just so great and just a perfect spot for it. I thought this first set was actually really good. And if they want to open every show like this, I'd be thrilled.
Maybe not every show. Mix it up.
I just wanted to mention real
No,
quick.
I like the jams right away.
The Ether Edge, Jonathan, though you were mentioning the end. I feel like there's like 3 or 4 times in this weekend and during this Ether Edge was the first where Paige was like getting into this like synth riff that was almost Dave's Energy Guide. Almost, it's like dancing around that.
Yep.
And he did that a few times this weekend, and I don't know if that was just on it, like if they talked about that or if it's just one of those things that you end up around because it's a music thing.
Well, and they play with these playing with delays. There's a couple other parts. I listened to a lot of this run yesterday in the car, and because I did a lot of driving, and it was, there's a lot. Some of it runs together, but there's a couple different passages where, they're looping a good bit into
Yeah.
Almost, but not. Days.
Almost, but not. Exactly. Okay. So, set to this, the only thing I wanted to say, the Pillow Jets, the thing I really love about these jams this weekend is the quiet breakdowns. And I think at Dick's, we got a lot of them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that like 15 minutes into the Pillow Jets, there's like this, and that's where I feel like the creativity is most interesting, when they like almost, it's like
stop.
almost, it's like, what's the use in every song, really
yes,
pretty
please.
cool. What else? What do you guys got on the second set?
Well, I just want to say about this Pillow Jets, it has like this snarky kind of monster vibe as they head off into the jam that I just absolutely love. And they got into so many points this weekend. There was this like groovy, effortless vibe to parts of the jams. And I think this Pillow Jets is a perfect example of that. And then it also has the like sustain, which Trey is like so into. Again, like he's so into like peaking and holding some wild sustain. And there's really good space, ambient, like melty vibes. I felt like at the end of it, it almost sounded a little bit like the Woodlands Jam. It was the only time this weekend that I actually heard something that sounded reminiscent of that for me. But I also love the Sigma right before it too. Like that's a really great chunk of like 45 minutes of music. Just those 2 jams kind of make the show for me.
Yeah, those 2 jams ultimately do for me as well. If you don't have those and it's just more songs, it is a little bit of a different vibe coming out of night 1. I think that hearing them play essentially 45 minutes of uninterrupted music and really going out there as far as they did, really put us in a position where we knew we were in for something really special. I thought Ghost worked pretty nicely. Wave of Hope, the energy when they started Wave of Hope was so high, and then it looked to me from my vantage point that Trey and Fish couldn't fully connect, and so they kind of just ended it. And as we got into Sigma Oasis, it was Mike. lo and behold, the hero
MV
of this tour, has just been unbelievable. And he drove them into this huge jam in Sigma Oasis that blew up. And then Pillow Jets, we've had some great versions, but nothing like that. Like that was really, really special. I was super into that. That sort of stuff, plus the first 45 minutes of set one, just make the show for me. Everything else, I agree with you, Jonathan. It kind of falls off in a little way towards the end of set one. Set two has a few up and down moments, ends really nicely. Santos, because they're 5 minutes away from curfew and whatever. But those two jams, like that Pillow Jets goes into my tier 1A of my overall ranking of this year. Sigma Oasis is high up as well. I mean, just really creative, a lot of meat on the bone, a lot of stuff to like go back and listen to late at night in the fall and be like that silence you're talking about, RJ. Like there's stuff happening in there that's really interesting and kind of feels new.
I'm not gonna retread all of that because I agree with you guys. I think though I want to say about the Ghost is a really interesting jam, and again they keep doing these great jams that aren't 20-minute jams. There's a lot of those, and you go back and look over the course of the entire summer. Yes, they do break the 20-minute mark a lot, but don't sleep on all of these shorter things. This is a great example. I would also say to Trey that when Fish.net notes that a song is unfinished, it's not a criticism. It's just recording a true fact. So it doesn't have to finish. You could just keep going or jam into something else or not. Or you could finish it.
Must
That's
return,
fine
even
too.
if it's not going to work. Must.
We will talk about this in night 2.
Yeah,
Stick
exactly.
around.
Wait, Brian, I have one quick question for you about your ranking system. Why is there a tier 1 and a 1A and then a tier 2? Like, I'm curious as to like why you have a sub.
Can I guess? It's because he put something in tier 1 early in the summer, and then a little bit later is like, oh, but shit, this is bigger, and so it's 1A.
It's basically that. It's more that like this year is so good that a tier 1A to me would be a tier 1 jam any other year of Fish.
Okay,
like last year,
only.
for example, the only jam in tier 1 for me was the Tweezer Simple from Berkeley. I felt like that was just head and shoulders above everything else. That was stunning. One segment, totally uninterrupted, a riff that goes into another song and then keeps jamming. So come at me, RJ Storm. So the this year we've got so much more. I mean, the first 3 shows of the tour, we had the Wave of Hope and the Chalk Dust. Then we had that I guess I have nothing from Vegas in my top tier, but then we started to have things like the Ghost and Soul Planet from Deer Creek, the opening segment of 8:15 to open set 2, the Woodlands Jam, and then we have this stuff from Dick's. Like, we're really in just like rare space. But then there's stuff like the Fuego from Vegas, the Disease from Vegas, the Light from Vegas. All of that stuff is tier 1 in pretty much any other year, but it's just crazy. Just crazy.
It's been a good year for Fish.
Just crazy.
I have some stats about that we're going to talk about later.
We all right. There's a lot of foreshadowing. A lot of foreshadowing going on here.
So exciting.
All right. So night 2, I just want to kick this off with the Wolfman's jam. With Fishman and Mike are just so awesome this whole run. But I feel like there's like toward the end of this, and I thought this a lot this run. It sounds like Paige and Trey are like playing a Broadway songs, like very often in the jams. They're playing like synchronized, like descending runs or like little coordinated melodies that almost sound like they're like part of a song or part of like it just keeps reminding me of like show tunes, not in a bad way, but in like
I love that.
In a way that,
I mean, maybe they're working out on some material together. You remember earlier in the summer, I cited a practice book, like it's a piano practice book that Trey was playing a workout
that
from.
Mr. Completely, right?
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
cited it in an interview. I don't remember if it was the Guitar Player magazine. I didn't read it all. I saw the excerpt. He actually it called out the book. He's like, "Oh yeah, I've been working through this just to, you know." So it wasn't just like coincidental or something he knew from old times. He's actually currently doing this stuff, and so maybe there's other things. Maybe he and Paige are talking about some of these things,
Yeah,
these
good point.
harmonic constructs, if not actual songs.
Can I build off that really quickly with a theory I have
Please.
that I think
Yeah.
thematically we'll talk about? So we're going to get into
Yeah.
this as we talk about night 2 and night 3. But one thing that really struck me and really impressed me about the jams was from this overall run was that, and it started with that Sigma. It felt like when they got into into like an unconventional musical space, they were only willing to commit when they played music that was a bit more challenging that we found in the past. We've had a lot of long jams over the last 4 or 5 years, but sometimes we've seen them, glom onto what feels like a not an easier melody, but like, the first idea, and they run with that and they build off of that. And it leads to a lot of like blissy peak, really interesting, really fun jams. But a lot of these jams this run felt like they were deliberately challenging themselves, and they were deliberately making harder choices and then building off of that. And we'll talk about that here as we get into night 2. But I almost wonder, to your point, Jonathan, about the, guitar exercise and like him and Paige aligning on these kind of, descending melodies and these, stuff that sounds like it almost comes from Broadway. And, where Mike has, risen in and found his voice within the jamming. If there is some intentional practice stuff happening behind the scenes where we've accomplished so much musically, we can play a 35-minute jam in our sleep at this point in time, but knowing that we can extend that space and that people are loving it, what can we do within music that challenges us and breaks down further rules? And that's always kind of musically where the band has resided, personally at their best, thinking 93, thinking 95, thinking 97, where they're really pushing musical boundaries and really challenging themselves.
It's really interesting to think about that too, in terms of like, in the past they've used new songs and things to find that, but maybe they're really thinking about jams and thinking about how to stretch that and do that in a way that's interesting to them, and more kind of composing in the moment in jams. Not like they haven't done that in the past, obviously, but this tour definitely feels like they're intentionally doing that.
Yeah, it's like they did Jam Filled in 2017. That was 2017. Jesus. And they set into that show to like, okay, we're gonna jam. And I feel like this tour, they determined that this is how they're gonna be playing, and have been at least talking about, if not
Yeah.
practicing, some
It
kind of,
feels
like
intentional.
I don't want to say strategy necessarily, but yes,
Yeah.
it feels like there's some intention and there's some, drive to not just do the Bliss Peak Jam, or, some of these things that we have heard them play with a lot. And I invite them to play with it again, because that shit's cool, but like new stuff's always great.
But they're
I'm not
also
saying
like
they're
continuing
doing this.
post-peak a lot.
I'm not saying they're doing this. Yeah. But it does sometimes feel like the same types of exercises that like Eno used for Another Green World, where I forget what those cards were called, but like he
Oh,
had those
yeah.
like
Oblique
artistic
strategies.
oblique
Yeah.
strategies. Thank you.
Like
Like I'm not saying they're
Mhm.
doing that, but it almost has that sense of like in
Yeah, like do
practice.
the opposite of what you would do, or
Yeah, and now
those
they
kind
can
of
talk to
ideas.
each other, they can hear each other in the jams, and you saw moments where Mike would go up to the microphone and say something, and that jam would then extend another 8 or 9 minutes in some really wild spaces.
Mike's just saying, hey, check this out.
Mike
I got a cool riff,
ways of knowing
guys.
a new thing.
Why is Mike so amazing this year? Everybody's like online is like, oh, it's the Rumble Pad. I'm like, it has to be more than that. He's just
He's used the Rumble
unbelievable.
Pad before.
Yeah, he's so
Everybody cool if I get the
melodic.
drill right now? Is that
Yeah.
cool? Can I get the drill?
Yeah.
I'm gonna get the drill out, guys.
I bet Mike is in the microphone. He's probably like, guys, can you believe that person is in the front row again?
He's like, guys, did you see my really small tissue
Look how
holder
much-
that's on the back of my rig right now? It's so
Look how
fucking
much
cool.
space there is in the front, guys.
I have a
How do
tiny
they do that?
wastebasket back here.
Seems
Hey, who wants
unfair.
to play Yarmouth Road?
Yeah.
Anybody
Oh
want to
my
play
God.
You know,
Sugar Shack?
and is this mic on?
Uh,
Me
We
or
love
the
you,
mic?
Mike. You
Me
fucking
or the
crushing
mic?
it. Oh
we
my
got
God.
another comment here. I thought this was a Goose thing.
No.
It's not, but I will say that the two things that the one thing that Goose and Fish are doing right now, both at the same time, is using their new material to jam, which is pretty
Yeah,
cool.
exactly.
That's all I got.
It's a big deal.
Where were we here?
We're going
We
to night
are-
2, which I'm pumped
Night
to talk
2.
about.
No, we already talked about set one. There was a
Well,
Wolfman,
no,
so
I
it was
didn't
fine.
say anything. I
Yeah.
have a
Yeah, we
little
didn't talk about
story
that one.
about Wolfman's, honestly, which is that so I did not stay up and watch night 1 and listen to it the next day. And night 2, Friday night, I'm watching this. It's probably the only one I can definitely watch because it's late out here on the East Coast by the time they have those concerts done. So I watched it, and I got to say, at first, I thought that they were not hooking up. I don't know where my head was, but I'm listening to Wolfman, so I'm like, is this working? What is happening? I don't know. And then they dropped into a jam and just broke down to just Mike and Fish and grooved on that for a moment. Time is immaterial. And then everybody got involved and it turned into a real jam. And I was like, okay, all right, this is going to work for me and them tonight, and I admit it was probably just me, but I like the way they approach that jam, which is to just start with a breakdown, find a new road out of it. And from there, I knew we were in for a good night.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and that's where I first heard that, the kind of melodic thing between Trey and Page later on in that jam. It was a hell of a start. Brian, what there were a lot of songs that set. What were you thinking about that whole set?
I agree with Jonathan. I felt like it felt a bit standard to start, and then it felt like the band wasn't totally hooking up, and then Wolfman's got to a cool space. No Man's felt like they kind of cut it off right when it was getting really, really good and went back into
Yeah.
No Man's, but it almost felt to me and to a couple people I was with, we talked about this at set break, that it felt like, okay, we know we can get there, and we know we can get there quickly. Let's keep this set moving along. Let's play a few more songs, and then we'll jam in the second set. Steam went to a cool place. Evolve, I'm always happy to hear. It's my first Gula since 8/13/2010. Really stoked to get that. Antelope, always fun. It was just this was as much of a first set as I think we got throughout the 4 nights, and that happens. Set 2 was. Whew, let's get
And
into that.
You can't
Perfect
complain.
set.
Like that No Men's and Steam, which you mentioned, they do something with them.
They get
And then
somewhere.
yes, they pull back, they pull back and wrap it up. But
Also, the Hello
tidally,
Stranger has
Yes.
a really great type 1 jam. It's type 1, but it is fucking good.
agreed.
Is it?
It is.
It
Okay.
is.
Bam, bam, bam.
You not think it's good?
That's it.
I
No,
liked it.
I think that not listening to music would be preferable to Hey Stranger, but maybe that's just me.
You're missing a boat on that song. That song is groovy, man.
Oh my god! I don't know that I'm not here for the song as much. I'm not defending the song, but the
Oh,
jam
man.
feels fun.
Wow.
We kind
Oh
of
my
already
god!
wrote this as Steam.
Oh my God. All
Oh,
right.
no, not even.
All right.
See, this is how I know
Very
I'm
different
right.
from Steam.
This is how I know I'm
Oh
right.
wow. Wow.
That's just me.
Now you have proof.
So all right, let's talk about set 2. Brian,
Let's
what is the
go.
deal with Chalk Dust Torture and Dix? That's my
Oh
main
my God,
question.
RJ.
Right?
It's just always
my
it's
God,
always
RJ.
so good.
So
Always so
good.
good.
So all right, let's make some big statements. I think that this is the best set that the band has ever played at Dick's.
Wow.
I think the other contenders are 9/4/11/2012 or 2011, excuse me, 8/31/2012 set 1, 9/2/12 set 2, 9/4/16 set 2, 9/1/17 set 2, and 9/1/23 set 2. So
Everybody
This
get all
is-
that?
Everybody get all that? This to me, the jams in Chalk Dust Sand, Ruby Waves. I've seen a lot of sets at Dick's. When they get into deep, dark, weird spaces, it feels like the biggest thing ever. It feels like you are in the center of the universe and everything's just swirling around you. It's amazing. This felt like that for 90 minutes.
Mm.
And it's insane. Like, these are 90-minute sets. These are not 70-minute sets. These are full on hour and a half. The Chalk Dust Sand, Ruby Waves is up there with the best music I've ever seen this band play. Full hour of music that every song, as they move out of the song, it's like the bottom falls out and they just spend all this time exploring the underworld. And in each of them, they somehow build them back up to raucous peaks. Ruby Waves, you get this benefit of already being in the jam mindset, where once it moves past the return to Ruby Waves, which they almost did at 8 minutes, you get into just some demented summer 95, fall 94, just madness fish that we all know, like, weird shit is my middle name. I'm here for that. At one point, it sounded like they were peaking Gaiudi. It was just mind-blowing fish. I don't have a lot to say other than, hyperbole here, so I apologize. Like, I feel right now the same way that I felt after Mexico and after seeing the Chalk Dust and the Wave of Hope, where I got to stand with an uninterrupted view and watch my 4 favorite musicians work and like just tinker and be like, hey, how about this? Oh, cool. We go here for a couple minutes. Hey, how about this? Oh my God, we're peaking this jam in a way and we're just continuing to go. That's another thing. Sorry, just as a quick digression. Everything's a digression, but whatever. I feel like they have also worked really hard to bring power back to the peaks in some of their early songs, like David Bowie, Slave to the Traffic Light, Harry Hood, excuse me, is what I meant to say instead of David Bowie, because David Bowie, I don't think they know exists anymore. Antelope, the peak of Chalk Dust is kind of what I'm thinking about. Like that is a more aggressive peak than what we were hearing in the late 2010s when they were figuring out how to jam for 20 plus minutes again, and they would sometimes kind of get to a peak and then just back off, and I don't know if they had like the full power to do it. Now you're getting like full on huge chords. Let's go back around for it. Let's go to this and like build it up to another peak. Like, the place was going as insane as I saw it during the Light in 2012. Just a huge moment. That's it. Like, that's 60 minutes is why I go see Fish.
That Chalk Dust is unreal. It's my jam of the weekend for sure. All I'm going to say about it is it's a masterful journey from dark to light with just a perfect, huge, powerful peak. It's one of those jams that just has such a narrative arc. It's undeniable. And I agree that peak, the hose and the phrasing that Trey is laying into that, it's unbelievable. But what's also cool is that they're not done. Like, the Sand would be a phenomenal jam that would be like the only thing we'd be talking about if it was not sandwiched between these two like other phenomenal jams. It's so good how quick they get into it. It's so interesting. It's like the texture work in that jam. They're just floating in it for so long. It's perfect. And it only lasts 13 minutes, but it's just like really packed. And yeah, the Ruby Waves is just wild. It's just absolutely crazy, propulsive, just layered shit. And Mike is just laying this like gooey, dense bass lines in there, and it's just the last few minutes of that jam are totally out of this world. Incredible set.
I came here to talk about that Sand because it would easily be overlooked. If you're pulling highlights, you might skip it because you're right in between these two monoliths, but it is awesome. It is perfect, and it doesn't need to be any longer because they get there so fast and they go there hard. It's so good. I think that it is worth noting that if Possum is your cool down song in your set, then it's a pretty ripping set. And I really enjoyed seeing people on the internet as I'm sitting at home with, watching late at night by myself, as people on the internet were like, everything's right. And then be completely wrong about how everything wasn't right, because oh my God, it was right. And it was that was a banging version too. So what a great set.
And then a
Just so much
killer
fun.
encore. Like,
Oh
they
yeah,
bust
that
out
too.
fucking
We haven't
feet
even
and
got
then
to
a
that.
30-minute yam. Like, come on, 27 minutes. Like, just so fun. They just sounded so inspired and yeah, it was an unbelievable show.
I think
Yes.
in recent years we would have seen that set end with Possum because that's
Yeah.
about 65,
Yeah.
70 minutes. But they are, and I looked at it. I have every set list written out over the last couple of years that I've seen, and like the timing of it. They were playing 65, 70-minute sets as recently as last year, and
Yeah.
now they are giving us a full 90-minute show. Because I felt similar when Everything's Right started. I was like, you guys had this, like, it was perfect. Just take off the
Don't
guitars,
fuck it
walk
up.
off stage, like, and Everything's Right. Just, it felt a little weird, like, in the spot. But then, as Jonathan's pointing out accurately, it dropped into the same jam zone and then built back up again. That is we get into a lot of debates and a lot of arguments on this show about, like, what works, what doesn't work. Ultimately though, like, Jonathan, you've planted a flag in this area of, like, it doesn't matter how long something is as long as they get to the musical space. The sand backs up that argument entirely.
Yeah.
Because I remember looking at my phone at one point to be like, where are we at now? Like, this feels like we're like 26 minutes into a jam. No, we're like 7, and they've somehow
They get
found
there
the space
so fast.
so fast.
So fast. It's just like instant.
Yeah, the on the timing of the set overall. So I still think they're mostly working, hour, 20 minutes. They went a little long on several sets in this at Dick's versus the
that too,
summer
though.
average.
Before that, the
Yeah,
Mondegreen sets were longer, and they were all.
a couple of
I
those
think
were longer.
They were getting longer.
But for like traditional venues, summer tour, they were pushing 125 is pretty normal, give or take. So here, I could see Trey looking at the clock and going, "Oh, we got 10 minutes. We'll do everything's right." But then they went 17 minutes, and who could be mad? And then this You Enjoy Myself fees always great. Feels like it's weird that it feels like a kick down now, but the You Enjoy Myself, when Trey doesn't take off the guitar, you're in for it. And that they returned to the vocal jam on the back end of that jam is kind of unique and special and very cool. Very, very cool.
The only thing I want to say is during the Everything's Right, I was thinking that a take that I've been thinking about this summer is that Trey, to me, is playing more like this year and last year, playing more like a jazz guitarist than like a shredding rock guitarist. Like he's choosing the spots like a lot more carefully, and also playing like a lot more melodically and a lot less just heading straight for solo, if that makes sense. Like I feel like that's maybe like an evolution of him being the age that he is. Like there's so much more like picking his spots, that and it works so well when it works, which it did like this entire tour. I know what you think about that, Jonathan.
I can't speak to how Trey feels right at 60 or this close to 60. But the not unusual to have to slow down a little bit. Trey clearly can play fast though.
Yeah,
maybe not all night long.
Unhinged.
Right.
Like, oh my
maybe
God.
not all night long, but he can play fast. But with the maturity that comes hopefully with approaching 60, being selective about what you play, well, hopefully most you should have got there by now, and he's there. He can he chooses to shred, or he chooses to take it slow while Fishman goes berserk behind him, and he knows that this is going to make the tastiest of contrasts. So
they're in a really good place where all 4 of them also can add these ideas that I feel like has long term been the goal, even when they were in the 90s and they brought things down a little bit post 95 into the more full band jamming to raise the voices. These guys are all incredible. It just so happened that like Trey was the virtuoso that could have worked with literally any band. Like he could have been just the front guy to a standard rock band and people would have paid a lot of money to go see them. what makes them work is the four-headed monster, and we're seeing that right now more than we saw in a few recent years.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
And to the commenter who wants to correct me, Trey was born in 1964.
64.
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna take a break, and then we're gonna talk about night 3. How does that sound, everybody?
Sounds great.
Yeah.
All right, we're back already. Okay, night 3, Brian. Bring us back.
So I just want to point out really quickly, and I just had to send a quick message because my son is going to make a brief appearance on the podcast for a very special
Yay.
reason with night 3. I just want to say really quickly that I have, let me just pull this up here. I have night 2 of Dick's currently ranked as the 6th best show I've ever seen. So perhaps I'm a noob,
Oh yeah.
but
I mean,
You're not a
noob anymore.
I will forever
You're
be a
not a noob.
2.0 noob. But that is how I felt coming out of that, and we'll revisit it. But night 3, so 8:31 at Dick's. This is an important date. The 2012 show was that's my favorite show I've ever seen. 2013 has the chalk dust that RJ will never stop talking about. 2018, the first 8:31 show in years, is a really sentimental show coming after Curveball being canceled. Last year's 8:31 opened the run, was a huge show. This one was going to be my 100th show, and I was going to bring my son Wallace Piper Brinkman to the show. He is not going to be able to hear you guys because I have my AirPods in. So I'm going to ask him some questions here, if you guys are okay, just so we get his vibe. Are you guys cool with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
So Wallace, can you stand right here? And I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and we're going to get your thoughts on the show.
Does
Wallace,
it work?
it's on.
It works
Wallace
really
has been watching a lot of Fish with us. He listens to a lot of Fish with us. So Wallace, I want to ask you. You went to the show on Saturday. Your first show.
I want an AirPod.
What did you think of the overall Fish experience?
I thought that the overall Fish experience was great because Shakedown Street, I had never been there, but I thought it was great because I had a magic 8-ball and so many people wanted to ask questions. People were really nice, and it was fun hanging out with my parents' friends.
Yes, well,
Aw.
Wallace joined our good friend Sam Timberg, who walks around with a magic 8-ball. If you've ever been asked by someone, do you want to know something from the 8-ball at Dick's, it is our friend Sam, and Wallace joined him, and people really enjoyed that. What was your favorite song of your first show? and
My
why?
favorite song was Split Open and Melt because I really wanted to hear it, and I also liked the Bathtub Gin because it's always a fun one to hear, and I loved it.
Right
Those were two
on.
big
Well,
ones.
Yeah.
Those are good
that's
versions.
awesome.
Split Open and Melt didn't freak you out too
Uh,
much?
No.
All
Oh,
right.
nice.
I will
Great.
say as well that Wallace really wanted a 25-minute Mike song, but had to settle for a 25-minute Kill Devil Falls at his first show. So he
Take it.
Interesting
was able to
trade-off.
adapt.
It's a good lesson
It's
to
a good
learn about
trade-off.
fish. They don't always give
Yeah.
us what we want.
This is a good point as well. All right, so 2 more questions for you, Bub. Did anything surprise you at Fish?
Something that surprised me was I saw a guy wearing something that looked like my little sister's dance clothes
Yes.
with a huge cat face on it. And he was like a 30-year-old man.
So
Yeah.
he was in his element. He was having fun.
Yeah, sounds like dude was having
Sounds
a
like
blast.
fish. Yeah.
Sounds like Fish. Anything
That's
else
so
surprise you?
And I also thought that the fish show would be louder than it was.
Really?
We
Was it
really
loud
built it
enough?
up that it was going to be very loud,
Yeah.
and I think that us building it up made it feel less intimidating in that sort of
Hmm.
standpoint.
Well, that's
Which-
good.
Maybe there's just a pill that someone can take to make it feel even louder. Who
I
knows?
can't
Maybe,
imagine
maybe.
that such
Maybe
a
you could
thing
do that.
exists.
I don't know about that.
All right, last question for you. Will you be back to fish?
Yes, I will definitely be back to Dick's and any fish show.
Yes.
on.
Wait,
See
Wallace,
you
can
there.
I ask you one question? Can you hear me? Wallace,
can
do
hear
you
you.
have a
Yeah.
do you have a question that someone asked you on the 8 Ball that surprised you?
Yeah.
What did someone ask you?
So it was it was behind like the stage at Dick's.
Mhm.
And a security guard asked me, and did I win the lottery on August 30th? And and the answer was yes.
Oh, well, you kind of did because you got to go to fish, right? It's kind of
Made-
like winning a
There you go.
lottery.
Yeah, you won
Made
the
the guy's
lottery.
night. Made the guy's night.
Yeah. That's
All right, dude.
awesome.
Thank you so much for
I
joining
want to
us.
stay down here though.
Okay, you can hang
Yeah,
out.
you did awesome.
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's so much
That was
fun.
fun.
Really fun experience for us. So that was how we got into night 3.
There
Wow.
was also
Take them
a
on that on
raccoon at Shakedown. I don't know if Wallace saw that, but I saw pictures of the raccoon on Shakedown. So that was pretty interesting. Dick's is an interesting place, it seems.
It's a
It's
wild and
scene.
crazy place.
The Wild West.
So
So
who's
Go ahead,
who's got some set one highlights? Because I think the opener was fine. They jammed it a little bit as they have been.
I
Yeah.
have thought
ahead,
words
Jonathan.
very specific to that that opener. And as kind of as a bonus, there's sports metaphoring in here. It's actually more of a simile.
Ooh.
So 46 days is as an opener is a little bit like, particularly in this case, a little bit like a runner getting on base and then stretching to steal the next base. You see it all the time. They get on base, take off, some of their batting gear, and they stretch, get ready. And they might steal second. Maybe they aren't going to come around to home. That's what happened here. Maybe they stole second.
I love these
And-
baseball references, Jonathan.
Yeah,
Just keep going.
Wow,
I
this is
came up
good.
with this while I was driving, and I dictated it to my phone just for you, Brian. But then the Oblivion does. What is happening?
We're giving you solo because you're talking baseball.
I'm done
cruel.
talking baseball. The Oblivion does actually get around to third, maybe all the way to home, and that's when we're the show is already a winner in my books at that point. It was a lot of fun, and I think it kind of stayed consistently up and down, but the down was not too deep at any time. It was all pretty good.
Yeah. I thought that the Oblivion Jam in the slot too, which has like been such a great slot on this tour, just like often this spot two is just like goes. And I thought this was a really, really great jam and kind of reminding me the last time they played it was at Mondegreen, but this one was like it went there where the Mondegreen version really didn't. And I loved that how they're going between the two axles on this tour. Like I don't know if they've ever done that before. You guys would know better than me, but they're switching like between the two, which is just weird. But the way that this one ends and then Jin kind of like creeps out of it, awesome segue. And like Wallace said, this Jin was amazing. Like, this was just such a great Jin. As RJ knows, this is always the best song to jam, but just under that 20-minute peak, but just like really, really great. Like such a great groove to it and had that like ominous tone and Trey building those peaks. It was just a really great like first set jam. And I'm also want to put my weight behind ending every set, not every set, but ending sets with most events aren't planned because that song rocks in that spot. It's such an emphatic ending. It's great.
Yeah, I want to call out. You spoke of the Axilla Jam and how it also had one of those spots where it got really quiet with some
Yeah.
delay loop action. Very, very cool. Loved the Jin. And yeah, I like most events are planned. I really want them to stretch that.
They will.
go
They will.
hard on
Totally.
that.
They will.
But because it's a lot of fun. It's got some pretty well constructed kind of peak moments going through the end of it, which would be interesting to hear them break out of and elaborate on.
Well, they had the like descending like riffs that are really
Yeah,
strong.
yeah.
So, like where they blasted out at
That's the part.
Mohegan, where it just like dun 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 dun, and just like at Mohegan, I think it was because the small arena, it just like went wild, but
Yeah.
it was still good. And I think you're right. I think it could blast out and go somewhere like really dark and cool.
Yeah, Paige was yelling too.
Yeah,
Paige
he
was
was.
yelling, and
Which
I'm
is cool.
just here for most events are planned, and I always wanted it this way. Those two
Yeah.
Yeah.
relatively
good.
recent Page songs, I would love to hear those more, because I think that they tap into a really cool sound that is out of the brain of Paige McConnell that I'm here for.
Yeah.
I think I always wanted it this
Paige.
way is come a bit closer to really breaking loose.
Yeah, it had that killer
Yeah.
version in Mexico 2019. This one has definitely not broken out like that, but should.
It can and it should.
Could. It could and it
And
should.
anything can. Like, I mean, as the band is proving right now, like my friend is a bona fide jam vehicle
Yeah,
now.
what the hell?
Insane.
What?
Longest version this
Are you
weekend.
kidding me?
Crazy.
Come on.
Crazy.
Tell
Getting
me you
ahead of
can't
ourselves.
jam Bowie, Jesus. Yeah, I think that this show, I tried to go into this show with my buddy Sam was telling me coming out of 8:30 that I just saw the 12:30 show the night before the night. The
Yeah.
8:31 is going to have this big build up for me because it's a special round number. I'm going to bring my kid to the show. And 8:30 is the show where like, whoa, that just happened. That happens all the time leading up to New Year's Eve. That said, I really enjoyed myself this show. I felt like the first 4 songs, like you guys are saying, 46 Days Through Gin, was almost this kind of reward for the work that they put in the previous night during the second set, where they played this really difficult kind of weird obscure jamming, and then you get these jams kind of like Jonathan is mentioning that like they're doubles, and all it's really showing is like, hey, we can jam wherever we want to and whenever we want to. We don't have to like dig in and go really deep. We can just go into a jamming space. I thought Oblivion was killer. The way that they ended Axela and put it into Bathtub Gin, the jam within Gin definitely got out there enough for a period in time while still figuring out a way back into the Gin peak, reminding me a lot of the version I saw in Mexico that just absolutely crushed. The rest of the set was a first set, play a few songs, got sliced pizza, walked around a little bit, had some fun. It was nice. And then set 2, I guess we'll get into here in a second, but ultimately I found like this overall show to be these 2 segments, the first hour of set 1 and the middle chunk of set 2, as really complete segments of music that ultimately, if you're not going to get a 40-minute jam at a show, give me 40 minutes of full on locked in musical exploration that I can really go back to and listen to, and I'm here for that.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I think that all tracks with the way I was listening, and I didn't watch the webcast. I listened to them the next day, like I always do. But this second set, Brian, I just want to talk about the Kill Devil Falls for a second, because there's this part that's like 5 minutes. They open with Loving Cup, which is like, fine. They keep doing these like short song,
Well, the night before they
jam.
opened with Chalk Dust.
They did, yeah, but
Which
they
is-
kind of alternated here,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Mhm.
Because in Sunday too.
I don't want anyone to take anything away from how awesome it is when Fish plays Loving Cup.
Yeah,
It is just a blast. It's a great fucking song. And yeah, it's 6 minutes or whatever tops, but it's like a great 6 minutes. And
It's
yeah,
fun to nice to not
I
have
wouldn't
it in
trade
the
it
encore,
for
too.
anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially. That's really
Different
nice.
space.
Yeah.
yeah.
What are,
I mean,
what are your
it's-
thoughts on this segment though, RJ?
Well, I guess I just wanted to say that there was like about 5 minutes into this Kill Devil Falls, there is Paige and Mike and Trey all are repeating like on the same exact riff for like 20 seconds, and then it just like goes into this very quiet space where like I don't know, I don't think that they do that very much, where it just like at the very beginning they have this little they don't do the where they're all 3 of them are playing the same thing at once.
Mhm.
And then it gets like quiet before they figure out where they're going to go, and there's no There's no like rushing. There's no pushing. Trey's not trying to like do anything. It just is really pretty fascinating. And that's like the first 5 minutes. And then there's, however many minutes after that. But I thought that just the way it starts is really pretty interesting and pretty unique, I think.
I agree. I mean, I found this jam to be fascinating throughout. I will just say on a personal side, my son was starting to feel a little overwhelmed at this point in the show, understandably. So it's a lot of stimulation. It's a long day, especially when you go at my schedule, so we can get the best seats in all of Dick's. He wanted to sit down, and I was on the aisle, and I sat with him on my lap for the entirety of this Kill Devil Falls, and it will go down as one of the greatest musical experiences I will ever have. I literally am like holding my kid watching Fish experiment at the highest level. Like, come on, I am sentimental enough that will fuck me up in a good way for a long time. The segue,
it's still only tier 1A. I just want to point out.
You got to keep emotions out of that, RJ.
We do. This is
strict,
black and white issue. Come
strict
on.
ranking. You cannot get your emotions involved in ranking.
Balls and
something.
strikes, baby. Come on.
Sorry, Brian.
Number.
No. You're good. I love that. The segue into what's going through your mind is one of the best segues I've ever heard. You can hear it creeping in, and they just lay it down. I mean, this is a song that we're going to be hearing from, and we're going to be experiencing a lot of really big versions over the next couple of years. Lyrically, it's really interesting. The tempo that they set for it, and then the way that riff comes in is kind of creepy. And now that they know how to segue into it, look out, like that could be a lot of different places. And then it has jamming potential. It's clear that the band is super amped up for this song, and it wasn't as big as the version from Mondegreen, but whatever, like, we're at a point where like every time you hear this song, you're going to hear something really cool. And then that does this thing that happened multiple times this summer. I think Great Woods and Deer Creek as well. Maybe Mondegreen, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Thank you. Where we're late in the set, it's time for a ballad. Oh no, we're just going to play Cross-Eyed and Painless.
Yes.
What? Yes. Are you serious? Now we're going to raise the bar up again. Like the place just went crazy, and then you go Melt. And then I forget what happened after that. I don't think it matters. But that whole segment from Kill Devil Falls through Melt, I was here for.
Yeah, that Kill Devil Falls, like Kill Devil Falls just has such a high batting average right now. Like Mondegreen was amazing, Bethel and Mohegan, all like worth re-listening to, just killer versions. And this version is the longest version ever, beating out Atlanta from 7:31:15. And it is, you've spoken about it beautifully. It's an awesome jam. What's going through your mind trips me out, because that song it doesn't sound like a song that Fish would write, in the sense that it has this really like narrative feeling to the lyrics. It's very kind of like classic rock, like band, almost, the way that they're kind of like building this scenario, and it works so well. And yeah, I mean, after the Mondegreen version, and I would even say the Grand Rapids version, like, that this song is like, Trey's into it, really, really into it. And yeah, the decision to go to Cross-Eyed there is just absolutely bananas. And I just feel like it's such a strong move. I like a power play.
Yeah, first person songs that exist in possibly this universe are not really things that Fish does.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and
it's
kind of intense, like personal. And,
yeah. It is, and it's really like a fresh piece of music from the playbook that, like, they haven't, Trey's delved into it in some of his own, like the songs that Trey has written, and then otherwise, like, the Trey Tom stuff from like Rift gets there, and there's a lot of other stuff in between, and what a great song. The jam into it is, the transition to it is sublime. And yeah, we've talked about this before, the Cross-Eyed, it was, the song part of Cross-Eyed was just like a that's your breather, because we've got more jamming. We're just gonna like, oh, here's this part where you can say, I recognize this, and now back out. And super fun, super high energy, everything you want in the middle of set 2. And then, Split Open and Melt. Yeah. You thought things were weird before? Crazy. And I saw some people, and Brian, you kind of hand waved the rest of the set, and some people who were like, "Why would they want to play a ballad now?" I was like, it's time for a ballad because the set's not over. It was a 90-minute set, and so they had 15 minutes they wanted to do, and so they gave us a ballad, a good ballad that I really am liking this summer, and then Carini. Oh, bummer! What a shame to close the set with Carini. Yeah,
Pretty pop and little version of Carini.
Yeah.
I just want to say real quick on what's going through your mind. There's a lot of references in there. I mean, this is a Tom and Scott and Trey, song, as everyone probably knows by now. But it's almost like it's like an Alice in Wonderland kind of style story, but with all kinds of little, like they mentioned the Salamander Prince, which as I think everyone knows is like one of the books of lyrics that Tom gave Trey. There's like a bunch of little mentions of things in there, and there's mention of a maze. There's like, it's like referential in some way,
Easter
but
eggs.
really just wild to listen to. And I don't think anyone, including Trey, is ever going to really remember all the lyrics to the song. I think you need a teleprompter for this one.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Almost did it. The beginning.
He's using a teleprompter, so if he's missing,
he's been for years, hasn't he? Like at this
not
point,
too many years, but yeah, he's been
since they
using it
came
for a
back in
while.
COVID.
Yeah.
I feel like that's
Oh,
yeah,
really?
yeah.
But if he's missing lyrics with the teleprompter in front of him, it's because he's focusing
He's
on
not
playing his
looking at-
guitar,
yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
And those lyrics come at you fast. Like there's a
hard.
Dylan ass.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of words
I'm
in
just
that song.
speaking and I'm just
Yeah.
getting it all
Yeah.
out there, and like the imagery, it's pretty damn. As someone who loves what Dylan does with music and those big, like huge verses, for like songs like Desolation Row and Sad Eyed Lady of the Lowlands, like it has that type of vibe to it where it's just like, here's imagery you make of it, but I'm also telling a story. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I love that.
Crazy. We got it in two song encore, and then Brian, Sunday at Dick's.
It happened too, which is nice.
It
It
happened.
happened. You guys know this. I have expectations. The whole Draper thing that I did early on, like we are paying for this experience. I'd love to have this experience blow my mind the way that I know it can. Sometimes it doesn't. That risk that you take, that Fish takes, is one of the coolest things about them. I will say 100%. I walked into this show not giving about what was played. I felt like I came in having seen some incredible Fish, knowing that they don't seem to know how to close tours anymore. It's a very strange new phenomenon. And just kind of expecting, like, the weather looked good going in, but I wasn't ready to, say anything until we got in there and got two sets of
Don't
music. I've been there before. And I will say, just as a quick aside from a jinxing standpoint, my good friend Sam Timberg, at about 20 minutes in the Choctaw Torture on Friday night, said, "Hey, has there ever been a 30-minute jam at Dick's?" And I just turned around and went like this. And he goes, "Oh man, I just called a no-hitter in the 6th inning, didn't I?" And of course it was a 27-minute Choctaw Torture. And so there's no wood in there. It's all concrete. It's an entire cement and plastic building. But going into this night, I was like, nobody talk about the weather. Let's just let it be. And I said, the only thing I said I would love to see, if possible, just throwing it out there in the universe, is a couple bust outs. I felt like that could be fun on a Sunday night. And lo and behold,
it's a weird
I
idea.
just-
Play
it's a
some
strange
songs that
thing.
people haven't heard in a long time to make your show good. I don't know.
yeah, right.
It's a
And
weird
lo and
idea.
behold, we got the first dog log in 464 shows since June 20th, 2012. Only the third time they played dog log since 1.0, the other being 8.2, 2003. First set, my big highlight is the My Friend. RJ talked a lot about this really well throughout the entire summer tour, that version from Alpine that he is wont to go back to on a regular basis. My Friend has been flirting with type 2 jamming since the jam-filled show. And I think that we're firmly in the place that when they play it, they're playing it not just because they want to play My Friend, but because they want to jam. And this one absolutely rocked. 18-minute big jam halfway through a first set. Like, I don't know how much I'll go back and listen to this first set, but I loved every single second of it in the moment. My friend felt like this huge jam where they were just fully connected, locked in, some weird parts, some cool hypnotic rhythms, some krautrock stuff, a big peak, wrapping the song around and finishing it in a way that I think we would all
Oh,
love every song
love
to,
that.
where it's not the my friend music, but it's the my
Yes.
friend lyrics.
So
Totally into
good.
that. The science stuff in Tube was really fun.
Yeah.
Fluffhead had a few flubs at one point,
Shocking.
but
Yep.
shocking. Yeah, it happens. But the peak of it was really, really killer. It sounded like they were about to jam that, like they've done recently. Stash, I'm never going to complain about that. And 2 compositions back to back, 2 old school compositions, I'm here for. And then Life Saving Gun, unbelievable new song, huge propulsive jam, not quite to the Sphere level, but like, Life Saving Gun is a song that I can't wait to see where that continues to go. So huge first set. Was definitely into this.
Working backwards, but I'll be more brief, is that Life Saving Gun is again a great example of like somebody said, oh, well, I guess this can't go 20 minutes because of when they're playing it. Well, that's true, but they pack a lot into that. 11 minutes is a great set
Totally.
closer in this case, and
Mhm.
it's a very versatile song that can open, close, or fill up the big middle chunk of a set if they want it to, which is very cool. And the stash is really good, and I didn't want to jinx it at the time, but I was like, they could go here, and they didn't, but they went pretty hard in the time that they allowed themselves, and it was very entertaining, very good, and really just like great jamming, my friend, and a really fun set. And how many people were talking during Runaway Jim about are we getting a dogs set? Are they going to play the dogs again? They did not.
Yeah. I love
Uh,
that. My friend. I just wanted to call out one part of that jam because Mike comes through with this like really funky, almost like boogie on bass line. I don't know if he has that effect on, but it sounds so like Stevie Wonder. Just, it's so good. And I think I love this jam, especially because it doesn't have like a predictable kind of like pace to it. It's not going anywhere specific. And the way that they end it, like up tempo, like you mentioned, Brian, with Trey just yelling the refrain over it, is so cool and such a great way to, yeah, like close a jam without having that clunky reentry into the song or forcing every jam into sometimes I feel like they're on this giant ship heading somewhere and Trey's like, we got to go back. And they're like slowly grind their way back to the song. And sometimes this is great. It's like, no, just ride the ship and just ride it into the waves and let it like slowly pull up to the sand. I thought it was just awesome. And
My
I'm
God.
so into Life Saving Gun.
Can someone just do the me? Is Trey Jack from Lost?
From Lost.
Like, we got to
You
go
have to go
back.
back.
We got to go
Kate.
back
We
to the
have to
song.
go back.
We got to go back to the
Quick,
song.
bring the boot back. It's just like, yeah, it's too
Rewatching
much.
that show with my 16-year-old son, and it is so fun because we're still in season 1.
That is awesome.
The other thing I wanted to say about this
Yeah,
set
go ahead.
quickly before we move on is that there was a lot of fun in this set. And I feel like this is, to me, the whole show kind of felt like a celebration. Like when you have 3 shows that are that good back to back, you've already won. And so you can just come in and have fun. And I think that there was a lot of, in the science quotes, in the end of Life Saving Gun, when, Trey's just yelling percussion rinse over and over again, and Fishman's just keeps drumming and they're just laughing and looking at each other. And in the way that my friend and like Trey was smiling so huge, he was so happy with himself. And I just kept thinking like that joyful playfulness is something we didn't have like a ton of this summer because we had a lot of like serious jamming and serious playing. And I think that was something that, would have been nice in Mondegreen Sunday, day 4. And I'm going to stop talking about that someday. But I do just think that would have been another direction to go to. Just putting that out there.
But how great was it during the Tube when Trey starts doing, she blinded me with science, and Paige is just laughing at him
I
as he's standing there
know.
playing. And
Exactly.
it's so fun to see them just cracking each other up. And it's, Trey is often laughing at whatever antics are happening on stage. But it's nice to see it coming around the stage.
I just want to say that my friend is the hero of the summer. I think the reason that I think it's such a like better than any song, I would take those versions of my friend, because the reason we talked about and what you just mentioned, Megan, it's totally not predictable, and it's you have no idea. Like with a Chalk Dust Jam even or a Kill Devil Falls at this point, you kind of like, not that you know exactly what it's going to sound like, but you know where it's going. I feel like with these my friend jams, like they don't even know where it's
Yeah.
going.
I
That's what
mean,
it
my
feels like to
friend
me.
is like, it's not a rock song. My friend is
Exactly.
not a rock song. Chalk Dust is a rock and roll fish version of rock and roll song. But my friend is a very complicated composition that was, part and parcel with Gaiudi when Trey actually wrote it and then cut and blocked it off to make its own song. It is not the kind of thing that anybody thinks should have a 20-minute jam when you hear the original version. You just wouldn't, there's no reason to expect that ever. And the fact
for
that they're
25
doing
years,
it
it
now is so
didn't.
great.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
For 25 years, it was literally
And why
like
would it?
it was an opener. Like how many times did
Yeah.
my friend open shows in the mid 90s because that was like the right slot for it.
My
And
first
it's
Um,
compositionally, it has an ending. A lot of rock songs, a lot of
Yeah.
people a lot of young bands, frankly, don't know how to end songs. It's a thing that you have to learn to do. And my friend has an ending, which precludes a jam,
Right.
unless they
Yeah.
decide
you
to
would
jam.
think that, yeah.
And you guys,
Um,
one thing. Never mind. I'm not going to do that. I was going to tell you guys a quick story, but I don't think we need to do that.
We
right
like
now.
stories.
we like
Well, I
stories.
just-
This is a podcast. Just go off.
Have you ever heard of podcasts?
You guys, everyone knows that my friend was written as a poem to a friend of Tom's and Trey's and everyone who got married, right? So that was that's where this came from. And they've been playing my friend so well this summer, and Tom's daughter is getting married in a couple weeks. And I just think it's interesting that they keep playing this kind of like a wedding gift song over and over when Tom's first kid is going to get married. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Wild.
Yeah.
And
Well,
who's the band going to be?
Yeah, well, I think the Disco Biscuits probably
Blackwood
right on.
Convention.
Blackwood Convention.
I heard their book.
I just want to note one thing that I just noticed because it's story time now or stat time. The only other time that Doglog opened a show, 8/21/87, also known as Ian's Farm.
That's crazy.
Whew.
Wow.
It's
So
hot
that
here.
that 10/21/95 opened set 2, right? Is that right?
10/21/95. It was the sound check.
Oh, that was the sound check.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah,
That's-
21-minute sound check, Jim.
So, wow. All right. Well, here we are. We're back in 1987, just like we always wanted to be. I just want to say, Brian, you mentioned the peak and Fluffhead, and I feel like these peaks are being it feels like Trey is treating them with moments of appreciation in a way that they haven't in the past. Like it feels like
Totally agree.
Yeah.
not like it's like the last time they're going to play Fluffhead or something, but just like it just feels like he's in this tour really appreciating these moments where you can kind of make an impact on the crowd, which I think is pretty cool.
Definitely.
There's a lot of hood peaks from the early 3.0 era where it feels like the peak moment is not the point of it. Like they just they almost, not they were going through the motions, but like I don't know if they had the ability to lock in on the peak the way that they would in the 90s. Like you listen to Harry Hood from the 90s or a Fluffhead from the 90s, those peaks will like change your life. And that wasn't happening as much for whatever reason. We could speculate, but it just wasn't. And it is 100% this tour in a way that I think just adds a little extra something to these performances.
Well, there's an emotion that Trey's playing with on this tour that I feel like stands out. Like he's phrasing and he just has he feels very inspired to me, and his playing sounds really emotional.
I think he's really enjoying his gear. He spent the first part of the tour changing up his sound, his gear to
Good
get the
point.
sound he wants. And I think
Yeah.
he's settled into it, and he must be really digging it. I'm dying to know how he's routing things, because I know he's not using that very fancy, very expensive train wreck amp, but he's also got the old Mesa Boogie in the rack there, and I know he's using it because you can see him fiddling with it during the set and sometimes during songs, and I want to know everything. I want to know how he's got that wired up, because it sounds out. I mean, I'm not there, I'm not in the room, but I can tell you that on all the recordings and on the streams, it sounds amazing, and he seems to be having a good time with it.
Yep. I think he's having a good time. I was thinking about this the other day when I was listening to one of these shows, because I do think you guys were talking earlier about the jamming and whether they were being more intentional about it. I feel like they're not trying to jam in a lot of these moments. It's just happening. And I think that comes with like comfort and kind of like the patience and all that. But I wonder if they're finally getting used to this like different post-COVID touring kind of thing that they have, which is totally different from what they've done their entire career, where they're doing like shorter tours and then these runs at different times of the year. And I think it felt kind of weird for a while that it was like, so they're going to do it like, like the spring tour or whatever. It's like, there's like
Seems to
7
be working
shows.
for
Yeah,
them
like
now.
shorter. Yeah.
But and I think it's finally, I just feel like they're like comfortable in that, whatever that is, which I think maybe took a little while.
And
I
this
just-
summer added sorry, Brian, I'll be brief. They had the added element of alternating indoors and outdoors until Mondegreen to Dick's, and
Good point.
and that's an interesting kind of addition and change up in vibe and all kinds of things for the band and the lighting and all of that. I think it's worked well.
I think it also, and I think to your point about taking a little while to get used to it, but it clicking now, it also creates this sort of element where they don't have a lot of lead up time and a lot of like time to like settle into a tour. If you're playing these short runs
Yeah.
and people are paying a lot of money to go to them, like the Sphere, Mexico, coming out to Dick's, going to a festival, like these are all like boutique experiences for a lot of people, and like for a lot of people their only vacation of the year. And as a result of it, you put people in a position where they are traveling to go see you, and it ultimately puts you in a position where you have to like deliver immediately rather than like build up over like 2 weeks.
Yeah. It's really true. I hadn't really thought about that, but it's really true. So many of the experiences this year are big ticket experiences.
Yeah, and a lot of these runs are, it's a 4 or 5 show thing or a 3 show thing or whatever, and you gotta like, I feel like they got so used to, even coming back in 2009, they had a pretty predictable schedule. Every summer was kind of the same. They would have a fall tour every couple of years, and I don't know. This is just a new style. I feel like they're used to it. Brian, last set Sunday night at Dick's. I feel like there's this kind of now maybe becoming common, but maybe not, maybe still novel approach to the Set Your Soul Free jam, where they peak it and then there's this like crazy jam after. And I don't know if like people in the crowd are now expecting that or not. You could tell us, but it's a pretty celebratory jam, but the celebration happens like at the very beginning. And then it kind of goes into a weird space on the back end, which I think they have been doing a lot this tour.
It's like a party that gets weird.
Yeah.
Almost immediately. I mean, I thought, so I kind of expected a set like this, but I got a better version of the set I was expecting. I remember like night 4 of Mexico had this killer set 1, and then set 2 we get into Ruby Waves, really, really cool zone, figure out a way into Golden Age, and from there we were kind of just like, here's a song, why don't we do this song, how about this song, and then we're done. And like that kind of flow, the cohesiveness, like you guys know I'm a snob for, and the good and the bad ways. This set kind of had that, but also has this really amazing segment midway through, Set Your Soul Free, Tweezer, Light. I'd even throw A Life Beyond the Dream in there because I thought we needed a ballad at that point in time. I love that song. I thought it fit really nicely coming out of Light. But what I like, kind of my thought going into this was, it felt like there was a bit of overthinking to the set list. Like Tweezer hasn't been played. Set Your Soul Free
Yeah.
hasn't been played. A few other big heavy hitters. Like, just come out and just rock it out for one more set. Tour's over. Sayonara. And coming out and being like, hey, why don't we play Caspian? Maybe this will work as a set 2 opener. And like, it's just 5 minutes. And then, okay, now we're going to play Set Your Soul Free. It felt like we're grasping for straws when we didn't necessarily need to. But to your point, RJ, the Set Your Soul Free goes to a jamming space that, we hadn't really reached since 2023. The Dayton version and the Greek version were huge versions from that year. We hadn't really gotten there with Set Your Soul Free yet in 2024. Really cool to see them get there. Taps into the same musical space of Kill Devil Falls, of Ruby Waves, of Chalk Dust Torture, of Pillow Jets. Look, man, if you're going to get one jam like that in a 4-night run, you are really lucky. If you're going to get a jam like that in every show of the 4-night run, everything critical I'm saying is the definition of a quibble. Like, it doesn't ultimately matter because we got so much killer music across these 4 shows. And the Set Your Soul Free was the anchor of the overall show. Once that was done, found Tweezer. Place went crazy because it's Tweezer and we're so deep in the run and we know we're just playing with house money at this point in time. It was glow sticks galore, which, sure, bad for the environment, but also look really cool. And as a reflection of the fan base being like, ah, and then, cool jam and light before going to Life Beyond the Dream, and playing some songs to end the set is kind of par for the course at this point in time.
Yeah, I was kind of glad. I was kind of glad when I went to bed before set 2 last night, and I was like, this morning, hesitant to look at my phone, like, oh fuck, are there going to be like texts from Brian being like, this is the best day of my life, or like, what, like they played Iculus for like 45 minutes and went and played like every song I've ever wanted to hear in the middle of it, and I was just like, I don't know if I can take it. But I woke up and I was like, okay, like there's a great Set Your Soul Free and like some other songs that are really good, and an encore that just absolutely rocked, and I felt better about it. But I also was like, that encore is just like the perfect way to close the set. Like, I felt like the whole set should have just been like Character Zero vibes, just rock it out, because like we've already won the weekend. Like, let's just have a blast. But Trey likes to play a lot of songs, and I agree, Brian, it kind of felt like Mondegreen the last day when they were just kind of like, let's play, Timber, let's play Golden Age. Like, it was just like random. But I thought the encore was like the most perfect way to end Dix. Like, Sabotage, like huge bust out, just an absolute rager of a song that makes me at least feel like I'm 19 again. And my boyfriend at the time is like hiding all the Beastie Boys CDs because he doesn't want posers to have them. I think that like the Beasties just bring back this like vibe that is just so kind of like deep in my soul. And so when they play that shit, it's just like, it's so fun. And I loved hearing it on the recording this morning, just the crowd just losing their mind. And with Tweezer Reprise, like that was a perfect way to end the whole run.
Yeah, I like the Caspian opener to the set. People are always going to bitch about Caspian because there's people who hate Caspian, and like this is the played here. This is the placement for them because it's not going to break up a jam or whatever their bitch is.
Right.
And I like the song, and Trey loves this song. Trey has a blast singing the song and playing it, so this is a perfect spot for it. And then we go, like I said, the party that gets weird, Set Your Soul Free is pretty much that. We're all here, Spirit Family, yeah. And then 5 minutes later, we're all deeply confused by the moment, and it's the best kind of confusion. Tweezer drop. I said to Megan before we started recording, I think before you guys got here, if this Tweezer goes any longer, we're talking about a very different story of the show. But but it was cool. It was cool. They played it, and they didn't completely just toss it off. And then the light, another one of those short but killer little jam vehicle situations that landed in Life Beyond the Dream. And then the set maybe felt anticlimactic, but it was after that. But it was all good. Howling is fun. The band is having a great time up there doing it. Character Zero, and then
Brian.
Yeah, yeah, right. Character
To
Zero, and
become
then
the
like
new meat stick, I do just want to say, since
I'd much rather hear it than
Alpine,
the meat stick.
but since
Hell
Alpine
yeah.
2022, no matter what run I go to, in whatever country I go to, in whatever state I go to, I get a howling. So this is the fish is just like you. Here you go, dude.
You know what, Brian? I would have liked to have been at your 8 shows of the year, to be honest. You fucking nailed it this year. So
It's pretty good.
good
Yeah.
job.
I have a question about that here soon. So yes,
Okay.
But the slave I thought was kind of felt almost like bonus. You can Character Zero is a set closer. Slave is that not the encore song? Okay, it's not the encore, and so then absolute banger of an encore. Yeah, no notes.
it is funny how 2012, before they went on tour, Trey said in a Rolling Stone article that they were going to try to break their the total songs played
Mhm.
within a year, and it kind of allowed that year has a ton of rarities and a ton of bust outs, two of which are Doglog and Sabotage, and now we get them again. If I were the band looking for bust outs, I would look to 2012 and be like, what have we not played since then, or what have we played only occasionally since then? Because that whole tour is just filled with them.
You guys like weird stats, right? So
I do.
Doglog was 464 shows going back to 2012. Prior to that, it was 172 shows, as you noted, Brian. It was 8/2/2003. I was at that one, and prior to that, it was a 50 show going to 9/17/2000. I was at that, and prior to that, it was 42 shows to 12/18/99, and I was at that. And then I
That's
keep
weird.
missing
I've
it.
never heard it.
What? That's wild.
Mhm.
That's
I
not
know.
21
that's
times.
I mean,
not
it
the
hasn't been played
extent of
that
mine.
many
I also
times.
saw it.
21
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
Yeah, it hasn't been played that many times. But
Yeah.
if this is the stat corner, I have a stat that I want to talk to
Go.
you guys about. Okay. So there were 18 20+ minute jams this summer. There were 26 shows. So that's like 1.5 over 20-minute jams per show. If you think about the number of jams that are under 20 minutes but will still be jam charted, there's a lot of them. And I was thinking about the stats that we've been looking at when we talk about our top tours, and they're usually around between like 3 and 5 jams per show. And we're definitely in that territory, I think, with this tour. And I'm so
Good point.
curious to see
Good
like
tour.
where this tour would land in our list. And I'm excited to talk about
Yeah.
that at some point in our series, because it is pretty spectacular. And I think that when you're looking at the number of, over 20-minute jams per year and over 30-minute jams per year, like over 30-minute jams per year right now, 2024 is the second after 95. And that is bananas.
Truly.
And it's in the top 5 for over 20 minutes, but that's going to change because we have more shows still. So
Right.
it's going to move up. It could actually probably will move up to number like 3.
That's crazy.
Mhm,
Oh, I'm
so,
sure
no.
MSG is going to be just, which hasn't been announced yet. So maybe they won't even play it. But
Yeah.
We'll see what
Probably not.
happens. I haven't had good luck this year, so I don't know, we'll just have average luck.
Well, as we're wrapping, I have a question for you all, because I feel personally like I've had the best luck for fish that I've probably ever had, and it's not lost on me that I just happened to select 2 runs that are quite good. That has not happened often for me. You should check my shows in the early 2010s, and I just missed the one like 60 times. But I'm curious, as I am the only person with attendance bias to both Mexico and Dick's. I would love all 3 of your opinions here. If you could have only gone to one, which and you take out the Mexico versus oil refineries of Commerce City,
Right.
and we're just talking pure music, which would you have chosen?
recency bias makes me probably, but I'll say Dick's.
Yeah, sometimes I have a hard time remembering what happened that long ago in Fish World. But I do remember being pretty blown away by Mexico, but I think it was mostly because of a few jams as opposed to like consistently amazing shows, where I feel like Dick's seems like it had more full, complete shows that were better. But again, I also feel like recency bias, but I'm going to say Dick's.
RJ.
Well, I wanted to respond to this question with another stat, which is that 15 minute jams. It's an arbitrary number, but that's what we're here for. There were 14 15-minute jams in 4 shows.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like in Mondegreen,
fucking ridiculous.
We had like were probably like 6 or 8, like 15 to like 18-minute, 19-minute jams that were just under 20. So like, yeah, they're playing a lot of those.
Yeah, I think Dick's. This is it.
Damn.
I think this may be recency. So but the Chalk Dust, the Wave of Hope, like that is as good as I will ever see from a jamming standpoint. I can't.
Has your soul been set free?
Very much.
Yeah, there you go.
The quantity of, we didn't get a 30+ minute jam, but we got, like I said earlier, that much quantity of music in multiple segments, and it just kept coming every night. There was a fear whatever, but like there was a thought in my head coming out of night 1 that, wow, we may have just gotten the deep jams of the run, and that happens. And then they just kept coming. So whatever happened, I feel really lucky. I definitely had a feeling watching Slave that like I'm pleased to just see this band when they come through here. They webcast everything. I love webcasting. I have zero qualms about missing a show at this point in my life and watching it on the webcast, talking about it with you guys, listening back. Like I feel like I've seen everything I could ever need to see, and I continue to be blown away that not only are we seeing this band as they are on the verge of 60 years old, but we're also seeing this band work as hard as they are and be as creative as they are and try things and take risks and succeed and have moments where you're like, I don't know what that was, but the fact that they're doing that is really exciting. And there's a level of musicianship and artistic creation happening on that stage that I don't think any of us expected in 2024. And I think a lot of us would have been completely fine with just like going to shows where they play 27 songs and maybe a couple hints of jamming, but like the vibe is there and you're having a good time and the vibe is really good. But instead we're getting a band who is doubling down and trying to push as deep and as wild as they possibly can. So I'm just in a good place with this whole thing.
I love it. Content Bryant Brinkman.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what to do with it.
I mean, I saw the only 2 shows I saw this year were 2 Billy Strings Almost Fish shows in Van Andel. So,
Yeah. You need to
which
come to
were
MSG
great.
and we'll make it right.
well, those were great shows. I'm just
Isn't that
joking
what
around.
Fish is going to be when Fishman decides to go fully into politics and Joe Russo takes over on drums and Billy Strings joins Trey and everyone's like,
Oh
well,
my
it's
God.
kind of the same, man.
Fishing company?
Never happened. Never happened.
God.
Okay,
No.
guys, we are going to be our listeners may have forgotten, as we almost did, that we will be picking back up our top 25
Oh yeah.
series in a couple of weeks. We're actually going to take 1 week off, and so we'll be back the week of the 16th. And we'll be listening to a lot of stuff before then. But I guess should we
We got 11 more tours. 11 more tours.
11 more tours. Top 10 territory coming up. And,
And
it's time for us to get to work because we have so much music we listen to.
We have
for
so
these
many
shows.
things to listen to, but I do want to say that if we hadn't said it before, we're going to summer 2017 next, so everyone can listen along and check that out.
Well, you guys have fun with that. I'm gonna step back and put out a few more Broke Down Pod episodes. But
Awesome.
when Fish comes back, I'll be back because I'm
All right.
here
Sweet.
to talk new Fish every time.
Love it.
And we'll have more drafts to come and some
Call
we
me.
got stuff in the works.
We got stuff.
We even have a potential new series for 2025. So I mean, things are happening.
That
Things are happening.
2025's never gonna happen, you guys. It's all
And we'll see you on Thursday, everybody in Connecticut.
Yes.
Please come and hang with me and RJ. And I think Tom Marshall's going to be there. Is he selling merch? Is that the
Yeah.
the word on the
Tom's at
street?
the merch table both nights. I'm running the I'm gonna be the tour manager, and Tom is gonna sell merch. Just so
And I'll
Tom
just
goes
be,
from
party.
songwriter to the most thankless job, guy
Exactly.
who sells the merch.
oh my god.
So good.
Thank you, Vic, for tuning in. All right, guys.
Oh,
We'll see you
yeah.
guys. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Hi, everyone.